This is Deborah Atkinson, and you're listening to Flipping 50, where I address your top questions and struggles. I share with you what to eat, how to move, and how to think to get the energy and the vitality you want in this second and better half. And today is another episode of my Summer Inspire series. And I've selected specific coaching clients, students from my programs, peers, colleagues, and a loved one or two along the way who are doing something or who have done something that really inspired me that I wanted to share with you. And I met Ruth, our guest today, on one of my programs, Flipping 50's Fit You program. And her questions and insights, the things she shared and the things she dug deeper to get more information about, really got my attention. She stood out, if you will. She was one of those students in the front row. And the way she shared and opened up was vulnerable, really helped other people in the group. So you know who I'm talking about. It's the person in class who asked the question that you hadn't thought of yet to ask and then thought, wow, I need to know that too. So you sit up and you pay attention. She was such an angel in that first class. I asked her to stick around. And she's currently kind of being an angel and watching over a new group. And while she's doing it, I think she's also taking her own program to the next level. So recently she shared with me some questions and insights she's got based on where she's at going through this layer again. And I thought I have to have her on. Her insight and her wisdom, maybe her intuitiveness about herself, is something that we all have inside us. We don't always tap into our intuition. So I think you'll agree. And by the time we're done, I hope that you too will be in love with Ruth. So Ruth, thanks so much for giving up your time and being here today.
You are so welcome, Deborah. Thank you for having me.
Good. And we'll just tell everybody the elephant in the room right now. So we had a little technical difficulty earlier before we actually started recording. So if it should happen again, I'll stay on. Ruth may come back. Well, we'll work it out. It'll work. So technology is wonderful. We were laughing about it until it's not, right?
Exactly, yes.
So I'm going to dive in with you, and we're going to talk about your participation in Fit You, but I want to share with people and have you tell your own story. So Fit You was designed for participants who have 20 or more pounds to lose. So talk a little bit about your journey with your optimal weight, your energy, your fitness level, where you were, where you are now, where you want to go, where you've come from, and fill us in.
Absolutely. Thank you. So my story begins several years ago, back when I was between 34 and 35 years of age. I ended up with some health issues that the end result was having a hysterectomy. So at the time, we knew that we were done having children. And so that was not a stumbling block for us. But shortly after, I began to have small little side effects or symptoms, you would say, of what women would call menopausal, effects. I had night sweats on a regular basis where I would wake up in the morning just absolutely drenched. And I went to my physician, and they basically just kind of said it was all in my head. So I know I lived with that for a lot of years. It wasn't until about little over 2 years ago where I began, there was some stress that we had going on in our family, and I had started to put on some weight. Weight has never been an issue for me. I pretty much have been able to maintain where I'm at. I could eat what I wanted and not really see too much effect on that until about 2 years ago when the weight started to just stay. And I'll be honest, I wasn't happy with the way I looked, but bigger than that, I wasn't happy with the way that I felt. And I knew that there needed to be a change somewhere. So because of that mindset and because of saying, I'm not willing to stay here any longer, I want to improve. Obviously, I got on the internet like most people do and started searching how to lose weight or get rid of the weight, keep it off when you are going through menopause. And I did happen to stumble across one of your YouTube videos that you did talking, inspiring people like, do you have this issue and I can help you, sort of thing. And there was something just intrinsic, Deborah, about you and just how you, I don't know, you met my heart. In that moment, I could sense that not just did you believe what you said, but you lived what you said. And it was proof, like there was truth to this. So I reached out, and at the time you were offering a program for the Fit You. And I said, okay, I think this is me. I'm going to be 50 this year. I have 20 pounds that I'd like to take off. But more importantly, I just didn't like how I felt about myself. So I knew that change had to happen. And so I dove right in.
Love it. Love it. So talk to me about, can you share some of your wins and successes as you went through? Where are you now? And it's okay for you to be real. So if you have progress you didn't make that you wished you would have, or a stumbling block, let's talk about it.
Okay, we're going to go for stumbling block right off the block, right?
Oh, really? I didn't really mean that.
One of my biggest stumbling blocks is water consumption. I don't know why. I have water that's with me that I carry around, but just making sure that I actually consume enough every day. That's one of my biggest things that I continue to work towards. One of the biggest probably praises that I would say, give myself a pat on the back, is that I trust myself now when my body speaks. I have a better intuitiveness about what it's saying. Either I've eaten something that I shouldn't have, or I haven't eaten something I should, or I didn't get the proper exercise that I needed to, or my sleep is just off. My body is so in tuned now and talking to me that I can't help but listen to it and make the necessary changes that I need to.
That's exciting.
It is super exciting.
Does it feel a little bit like a relief?
It's a huge relief, probably more so because I actually can believe in something that I can do. I think I kind of doubted myself. I was living in that place of, I've got this extra weight and what do I do about it? Oh, I could never get to that place. I could never have toned arms again, or fit into those clothes I used to have, or have people say, you look fantastic. What are you doing? I didn't believe that could be me.
And is it?
Yes.
Really? That's exciting.
Yes. I've got clothes that I'm wearing that I didn't wear before. In fact, my son was leaving this morning. He gave me a huge hug and pulled back away, connected eyes. And he said, okay, I can tell you feel great. Like you have really done some work. So I don't know. It just puts a smile on my face. He'll be 21 in just about a month and a half.
So I have a 22-year-old, so that has impact for me. So if you're out there and you don't have a 21, 22-year-old, let me tell you, that's a big deal.
Well, especially because all of my boys, I have 3 of them, they are very physically fit and they work on it on a regular basis. So I was kind of the oddball out, not doing anything. And, here they're doing all this fitness and exercise and eating right. And so it's good to have them compliment.
That's cool. And I want to backtrack a little bit. I want to pick up on something you said, and you didn't say this, but I think it bears asking. And this is a great conversation, I think, for anybody listening to kind of listen over our shoulder. It's okay. Eavesdrop. We're inviting you. But something you said about, I didn't think that that could be me, somebody telling me I looked great. So before you actually pulled the trigger, I call it, and registered for the program, what goes through your head, or do things like, what's going to be different about this program? How is this going to be different? Or will this work for me? Does that sound familiar?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I think all of those and then some. I really lived in a place where my mind said, and maybe it's my heart that actually said, I really want to, I desire to exercise regularly and eat better and feel good about myself. But I just did not have the motivation or the self-discipline to make that jump, if that makes sense.
It completely does. So this is a hard question, potentially. What was it that flipped the switch? Because at some point you go from a mindset of doubt and not being in to deciding. What was it?
Probably for me, finding out that I was going to be a grandmother, I think put me into it lit the fire underneath me a little bit, to say, okay, if I feel the way I do right now, and I want to be a part of my grandchildren's lives as they, grow and become the little people they're supposed to be, how's that going to work? That it's not. I mean, it was clear it wasn't going to work out. I also had several people around me who, just in the past year, have received some devastating health news where they were forced to make a decision one way or the other. And my husband and I spent a lot of time talking about it, that, you know what, we could wait for that moment when the doctor hands you the prescription across the desk and says, if you don't change this, big negative things are going to happen. Or I can take the jump now and do it for myself. So I think, having his support behind me, and I had to just kind of muscle through that. I think I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what to do. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do I do the nutrition and then the exercise, or exercise then nutrition? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, your program is so comprehensive, and even on top of that, you explain the why and here's what you need for this purpose. You've been doing this, back in the 80s and the 70s. That's what we did. But now this is where we're seeing great benefit. Was huge for me.
Yeah, I love that. I like that comment. And I hope everybody listening hears what I heard in that is, you said you lacked the motivation, but then you actually followed that up with a sentence that I think lack of motivation, a lot of us default to blaming ourselves, thinking I'm not motivated, or I'm lazy, or I'm not disciplined, when the reality is, how could you possibly get motivated to do the unknown? You don't know what it is and where to start. And if you can't connect, the dot, there's no GPS telling you, take a right turn here, take a left turn here, go on the roundabout, because here's the destination over here. I trust Siri blindly. I love her. I'm in love with her, literally. I don't remember what I did before her. And, that kind of lack of plan, it's difficult to lace your shoes up and go because you don't know where to go. And I hope everybody can connect with that it's not you. It's not that, you lack that. It's that you don't feel like, okay, logically, I want to get here. I'm here, and know the steps to get there. That's a big part of, I think, our challenge if we're changing anything in our life.
Absolutely. And I think even for me too, one of the I made the decision, but kind of get that ball rolling for me was my oldest son. He's 25. He's in the military. He lives in the South. I was sharing with him one day just how I was feeling kind of low and blue. And he said, all right, I want you to go do these 5 exercises. I'm like, yeah, right. I can't do that. He goes, I'm calling you in a half an hour. And I didn't want to disappoint him. So I did it. Right. He called me and I said, I did it. He goes, how do you feel? I said, I think I feel good. And he goes, all right, I'll call you tomorrow. And he did that every day for 2 weeks solid. And it was in that time span that I found your program. And I said, all right, thank you for the motivation. I've got a program I'm going to go with. But, he really did get that ball started for me, because I wasn't sure how to kind of open that door.
That is cool. And that is the one meme, at least, that I can claim that I see on social media that I do love. There are a lot of them I don't. They're kind of an evil, mean girl post, sometimes, and they lead us down the wrong way. But I think that one reminds me of the, that was a terrible workout, said no one ever. Really, right? I mean, when you're done, it always feels better that you did it, you accomplished it, or you attempted it. And some days don't always go wonderfully, but you usually feel better.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Okay, so let's ask you some of the quiz questions that we've asked some of the other people on the Inspire series. What's your biological age? How many candles on the cake last time?
I am technically 49 years and 7 months.
Wow. Okay. And so many days and X amount of minutes. Okay. So tell me this, how young do you feel?
I feel probably in my early 40s young.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't see myself as edging 50, even though, I know I'm going to be there.
And I think, in my last few interviews with people, we've talked about this, especially with the ladies, that, that's kind of a hard question when you come back to it, because I think we're trying, right, to raise the roof on whatever our image of that feels like is. We certainly, at 20 didn't ever imagine us being as old, possibly as old as 50, so it's so different the closer you get, that saying that, your perspective on old changes as you get there. Right.
Absolutely.
So, okay. So what's your definition of optimal aging? What does that look like for you?
Gosh, that was one question that I sat with for quite some time, because it's a really good one. I think where I'm at now, aging has almost brought sort of a negative connotation with it, as it kind of it refers to the natural process or order of growing old, which along with that, in my mind, comes, the future inability to do things, the slowing or breaking down of the body, because that's what I see around me. I have an aging mother, I have aging in-laws, and what I see in them, that to me is kind of my definition of aging. It's not the one I want to live with, but it would be how I would define it.
So that's your definition of aging. What if I add to that optimal aging? What do you want to be true?
I want to feel good doing whatever it is that I do. And not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. I want to be in a place where time, a number, doesn't matter, because I'm living within the realm of I can do this.
Love it. Love it. How important is your environment to you? You have mentioned, and I ask a lot of our guests, if they feel like they're swimming upstream. You've alluded to a bit that you're surrounded by boys who are very active, fit, conscious about what they're eating. So you may not feel you're swimming upstream, but perhaps are there others, family, friends, or your social circle that you've experienced any resistance? Any?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Okay.
How many times have we heard those around us refer to me where I'm at, that diet thingy you're on, or with your picky eating, I'm not really sure that we could find a place to eat out, or even that special eating plan.
It's like junior high. It's starting to feel like junior high.
Right?
Yep.
But what's so funny is how the changes that we often make for the good in us cause almost a threat to those around us. So what I mean by that is when I say threat, it feels like they have to defend or even justify their own position in order to be in our company. Like, well, I could never go gluten-free because, I can't do without bread, or I'd be hungry all the time. Or, yeah, I tried that once, it didn't work and it's so expensive. Like they don't feel it's almost like they have to defend themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I so agree. I find myself defaulting to, I saw this on Facebook, but I'm doing it again right now. But I did just literally, a friend of mine posted something that, if you're eating a Big Mac and French fries, nobody says anything. But if you go to the effort to pack your lunch and it happens to be a healthy salad and you pull out an apple and, people comment on, how good you are and, the effort and extent you go to. And if you are laying on the couch and you're watching reruns of whatever it is for you, at King of Thrones, I don't even know that show. Seriously, I could be saying it wrong. I don't watch TV, you can tell. Nobody will say anything. But if you decide you're going to sign up for a 10K and you've never done anything like that before, you're going to extremes. And, that's taking up so much time, a hobby like that. How do you have the time to do that?
Yeah.
And it's ironic that we do get pushback, but yet it's not ironic if we remind ourselves that truly still the statistics, they are improving a little bit, inch by inch, but the majority, 70% of us are not exercising enough to truly affect our health. And I'm not talking fitness or performance, I'm talking our health. And we are still, on average, eating out in a restaurant, 5 or 6 times. Now that's not always bad. You can choose well. And we've had a guest here on the Inspire series who eats every meal except breakfast out, and he's lost 50 pounds in the last year. So we know you can choose wisely, but unfortunately, most of us let down our guard and inhibition and kind of just go for it when we go out, which is the bigger problem. But yeah, completely true that it's a kind of a dual-edged sword, what happens when you actually do it and how other people are threatened themselves by what you might be doing.
I agree.
Yeah. So what about your environment, your immediate environment, your family?
My family is so supportive. I think I know I shared this with you and the ladies in our Fit You group. But my husband has evolved in the world of vegetable eating in our marriage. You like how I use that term? It didn't start out that way. He, slowly every year that passed, we'd add a new vegetable kind of thing. So I was doing my morning smoothies for my Fit You program and loving them. And he could not see why I would put greens and avocado and fruit and, the milks that I would use, coconut, almond milk, that kind of stuff. In his mind, he just kind of scratched his head. So one morning he decides to say, could you make me one of those smoothies that you make? And I said, sure. I'm shoving the bottom of my NutriBullet with some greens in it. And he walks by and he goes, what are those? And I said, you're going to be just fine. And continued to make the smoothie. He enjoyed it so much. A couple days go by. He says to me that he had his morning snack about 10-ish. And I said, well, were you hungry when you had your morning snack? And he said, well, no, come to think of it, I wasn't. It just kind of is habit. At 10:30, I normally get up and have my cheese stick or whatever. And I said, well, try and go without it tomorrow. And ever since, he has been without his morning snack at 10:30 because the smoothies are holding him and sustaining him till lunch. He's lost 12 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
In the time. Yeah. And that's not just, with the smoothies, but, how I eat and the meals that I prepare and stuff, all of it as a whole has been super effective on him. So he's seeing the nature of change in himself, which has been ultra, ultra supportive for me too. I have a 9-year-old, as I've said before. Some of the stuff I make, she turns her nose at, but all in all, I have a very supportive environment around me.
Love that. Yeah. And, I would have to say that's probably just being 9, right? I mean, anything you might make. But I love this is the ripple effect. And, ladies out there, this is tried and true. And I've written about this for about 15 years, but women influence the decisions made in the household. 80% of the time, it's what you do and how you eat, how you take care of yourself, how you exercise that actually impacts the other eyes that are watching you far
Absolutely.
more than they're hearing you, right? We can talk, but if we're walking the walk, eventually, even if we may see or feel right now it's not penetrating, they're not getting it, at some point, something will happen, and they will. I know for me, as a fitness professional, raising a son, we were, a normal family. So there were, chips in the cupboard, and, it wasn't completely because my feeling was that if I said absolutely no, never, that he was just going to go to friends' houses and, do it there. And it would be that much bigger of a deal. So, some moderation, as long as he knew the importance of the other things, was always the direction that I tried to go. But, there are often times when I felt like he's just not getting it. This is just not working. My son golfs. So in our family, it's like, I think I'm double bogeying parenting, right now. So the way it comes back full circle, though, is we were eating with a friend in a restaurant, and I got up and excused myself. I think before we ordered, I had to use the ladies' room, and they were discussing menu items and actually thinking of ordering just to get, we were in a hurry to get going. And they suggested, my friend suggested something, what about this? And my son's retort was, oh, she would never eat that. And, it was like, no. Here's what, she'll pick. So he knew, the healthier options, and he knew why. It's not that he was necessarily choosing them for himself, but he understood, the importance of it.
Awesome.
So little baby steps, right? Yeah. and now I hear, when he goes to restaurants, he is more prone to ordering, salmon than, something else. So I'm getting in steps here. Yeah.
Baby step in it.
Exactly. So talk to me about your future. What do you see for yourself in terms of health and or, goals, whether they're life goals or physical goals, 10 years from now, 20 years from now? What do you want to describe your life and you?
I think every one of us would say that we want people to comment, she's how old? And she does that? Wow.
Yeah.
I think off the bat, we could all say that. Everybody's going to say they want to be more financially secure. That's kind of a given, right? But I'm hoping 10 years, I'll potentially have an empty nest and, maybe some more grandchildren. What do I want to be doing? I want to be doing more. And that could encompass so much more time with family, more travel if we can do it, more activities, like new hobbies and things with my husband and I, more freedom really to live fully fit in this body as it continues to age every single year. I think, how am I going to get there? Obviously, making the changes that I've made right now in the past 3 months is, not looking at them anymore as changes, but no, these are my regular habits that I do. This is just who I am, having it become more of me and less, well, it's this new program I'm on. So, I think, some of that is going to be a huge mind shift for me to be able to embrace every single aspect of my changes, not just physically, but, again, emotionally and mentally. As the age on the clock continues to rise, I don't have to go with that is where I want to be. I want to be that one that everyone says, wow.
Yeah, I love that. That was a great comment. Yeah, so true.
So
Okay.
true.
So I want to ask you, I've got two more questions. One is this, you alluded to this just a little bit, but I'm going to have you go deeper if you can describe explicitly, how are you? How do you feel you're exercising smarter now than you might have in the past? What's changed?
Well, wow. Okay. First thing, I stopped listening to myself, and I say that kind of in joke. But I would say things like, well, if 10 pounds does this, then 50 is going to be awesome, right? But I would put myself in a position where after 2 days of doing that exercise, I couldn't walk or I couldn't lift my arms because I didn't know what I was doing. I was trusting the advice of people that, look it up on the internet. You can find any program there is out there. And, but it wasn't specifically designed for me at my age and in my condition with hormones changing and aging and all that kind of stuff. Obviously now I'm listening to very wise counsel. You're talking on the phone, right? But who, in my opinion, knows the exercise industry, what worked before, what doesn't work now, and why. And here's how you get optimum results without harming your body. I'm starting, like I said before, I'm listening to my body because my body is what's telling me, don't go there. That's not good. Or, wow, that feels a little bit of discomfort. But I think if you push through it, when you do a stretch and it's kind of a little bit pain underneath, but it's a good stretch, I'm listening to that kind of stuff. Obviously, early on in the Fit You program, I was having a little bit of discomfort with my knee. And you adjusted the exercises for me and said, do this instead of that. And it helps so much because I am now to the place where I can do those original exercises and it's not causing me any problem. Because I went from pretty sedentary life to now actively taking notice and making intentional progress in exercise with intervals and strength training and rowing and things like that.
Love that. Love it. Great insight. Okay. So this is the time in the podcast when I ask the big question that is the signal that we're almost done, but it's the toughest one I saved till last. Is there a question that you wish I would have asked you or a tip or comment that you'd like to give listeners that we haven't had a chance to share?
Oh my goodness, that you did save the hardest one for last.
That open-ended question, it's always the hardest.
Open-ended question. Well, I think that you really have asked some really great questions of me. I feel like I've kind of, given you the span of, my progress, where I'm at and where I hope to go. I think probably one of the things that I would say to your listeners who are out there who might be hearing this and still thinking they're listening to that voice in their head that's telling them, yeah, that's great for her, but it really isn't going to work for you. Tell that voice to shut up. Because I am just like any one of you. I have stresses in my life. I have an elderly mother that I help to care for. And some days are bigger stress than others. I have, a little one I'm trying to raise in the home. I've got a husband, I have older kids and trying to balance that. I'm no different than, most of you out there that you can make the change. You just have to start somewhere. And somewhere, I think, is saying yes to you because you do matter. How you feel about yourself, what you're able to do, and changes that you can make because you're stronger than you believe you are, really. You are worth it. I would say make the change today. Don't let another day go by where you are listening to that voice. Tell that voice to shut up.
And there you heard it from Ruth Webb. Now, I will tell you This lady I've known for almost 16 weeks now. That is as strong as her language gets. So you need to take advice there. If you have a question for me or for Ruth, please leave it below the show link at flipping50.com. That's all spelled out, no spaces, no numbers. I love hearing from you, and I know she would. If this episode was helpful, please leave a rating in iTunes and then share it with a friend. Surround yourself with a supportive community of women who are on the same journey. To get the most from this week's or any episode, check out today's show notes at flipping50.com/podcast, where you'll find the juicy free downloads or resources we've mentioned on the show. We'll tell you a little bit about the Fit You program. We have one coming up. We don't have one on the schedule yet that you can register for, but we'll tell you a little bit more about it. Let's start flipping 50 together.